Causeway is. We are an organization that is 100% based on volunteers. I am the only paid employee of Causeway, and Causeway provides services that help people stay in their homes and active in our community for as long as possible. We just went through what we call 2020, and a lot of things closed down. Our lives changed in so many different ways. Causeway never closed. We realized that even in the government shutdown, that there were phone calls coming into our office. People still need to get groceries. People still need to be able to get a prescription picked up. When doctors started seeing people again, they had to get to those appointments. Taxis weren't running. The buses weren't running. We were. And it was due to our wonderful volunteers saying, yes, I'll do that. We made, the proper safety protocols in place with masks, and we provided hand sanitizer, and we never closed down. So the services that we provide are errands and shopping, getting to that grocery store, and we can shop for someone from a list, or we can take them with us and go shopping together. Beyond that, once we get home, we can help put the groceries away. We can help sort through the fridge and see what's expired and maybe help get that out to the curb. You won't get that with the taxi service or the minibuses. That's the way that Causeway is unique. When you call for services, we do try to get you matched with that same volunteer again, so that way you recognize each other. You can start to ask about family, friends, you get to know the grandkids' stories. That's what Causeway is. It's that connection between people. We do visits and outings, so not just spending time with someone in their home, but let's get out in the community. Let's see the paddle wheeler when it's in Riverside Park. Let's go up to the bluff and look at the fall colors. That's what Causeway does, is getting people connected. Another 2 ways we have our outreach into the community is doing Sports Buddy and Arts Buddy. Arts Buddy is getting together and going to live plays and performances in the area. So maybe it's going together to Moon Tunes, or it's a play at the community theater, or there's a play going on at the Heider Center in West Salem. We help people connect for that and then go together. We do a listing of all the performances so people know what's going on in the area, and that's always on our website, so they can quickly look on our website and see what can we do together this weekend. Our Sports Buddy is through our local high schools, universities, and the loggers, and it is getting people together to go out to a sporting event. In the wintertime, when we're so tired of being home alone, go to a basketball game. They're plenty warm, popcorn is affordable, and most times you get in for under $5, for a sporting event, and you're cheering on the local teams. So we help connect people to go out to live events like that. We have indoor and outdoor light chores. So it's raking leaves this time of year, cleaning out gutters. In the wintertime, we have our snow saints, and then like a snow angel, but snow saints. And they come out and they salt, shovel, or treat sidewalks and driveways within 24 hours of a snow event. The city of La Crosse and maybe on Alaska, they tend to send out fines or warning letters if you don't clear within 24 hours of a snowfall. So this program helps those people that cannot go out safely to do their walk. They can call and register for a snow saint. We're always looking for snow saints, and we have gentlemen that'll load up their snow blowers and snow throwers, and they'll do the whole block when they're out. So if you're a person like that that's interested, youth groups, any of your community involvement groups, all the things like that can absolutely be a snow saint. And it's a quick, fast way to help somebody else out. At the bottom, we have our Before the After program, and I'll be talking about that more in detail. I gave you a brochure about Before the After. The history of Causeway is on this page, and Causeway began in 1986, and it began when people started to realize that kids were moving away, mom and dad were staying in La Crosse, and as we age, we don't see as well, we don't drive as well, though we don't like people to tell us that. And eventually someone steps in and says, you can't drive anymore. Now what do we do? And people quickly said, you know what, we should get something going. And so 15 congregations gathered together and said, let's start a volunteer program. They were mostly on the north side of La Crosse. A few south side churches got together and they formed the first cluster of volunteers. And the first match was made in May of 1986. And that match continued through the years, and the first participant that we matched actually passed away in like 2008. So that match had continued through all of those years. And that's our goal, is that long-lasting, connective type of match. Now we have 28 churches that are within Causeway. A church gets involved by saying, we want to help support Causeway. The ways a church can support Causeway is through letting their congregation know that there's volunteer opportunities, by letting their congregation know that we're here to help. So if you need help getting to the grocery store or shoveling that walk or getting to a doctor appointment, let the congregation know. A church helps and becomes part of Causeway by helping us to network, getting our notices into bulletins, newsletters, and onto websites. They might host a before the after planning session. And then the last thing that they do is they make a contribution per year of $600. Some churches go above that, some churches don't come close to it, but the fact is that if they're providing volunteers, recipients, or a notice in the bulletin, they're part of Causeway. On the back of the brochure is the current listing of churches for Causeway, and these are our, some are our founding churches that are still with us, some are new to us, but they are how Causeway has existed for so many years. We've spent money advertising on the web, on the TV, in the newspaper, but it's the word of mouth that always does the most continuation of programming and services for Causeway. It's always word of mouth, and especially through our churches. On the inside, a little bit of information on who is a volunteer, how do you get involved volunteering. A volunteer is anyone who has an hour, maybe 2 hours of time that they can give to another person. If it's a high school student, they can volunteer outside of their high school time. Families can volunteer together. Friends can volunteer together. We always say, you know, if you want to go out and do an outing, bring your best friend with you when you pick up your person. You know, that's 3 people out having fun together. For the people that we serve, Causeway is meant for individuals age 60 or older living in La Crosse County. Therefore, disabled adults 18 and older living in La Crosse County. For anyone 18 and older diagnosed with cancer, a dementia, Alzheimer's, or any other brain-related impairment, that is who Causeway serves. For our services specifically within Causeway on the brochure, that would be within La Crosse County. For our other programs, they extend outside of La Crosse County, and we basically cover the Coulee Region. So that's the information about Causeway. There is some information here if you would like to receive services, a little bit more information if you'd like to be a donor. All that information is there. Causeway fundraises for its budget. Beyond our supporting churches, we do 2 appeal letters per year, and those typically go out in the spring, and then at the end of the year, the Christmas type of appeal letter. And beyond that, we do write grants for some of our funding, and then we have local business and community support and donors that support Causeway. But other than that, we fundraise. We've done different events throughout the years, and we do what we need to do so we can provide all of our services without charge for the people that call. We do not ask any qualifying financial questions. There isn't even a question on any of our forms about finances. The richest person could still need help getting to the grocery store, or they could still need a visitor. It's not about funds with Causeway, it's how can we help you. After that, we'll go to the before the after brochure. And before the after was an idea that I came up with and started presenting in the La Crosse County region in 2012. I came up with before the after. I was hired into Causeway in 2002. And many times as I saw kids coming in and visiting about mom or dad, and they'd say, you know, they don't have anything prepared. And then my own grandmother passed away, who made notes and little notations on every slip of paper around where she sat, but nowhere in all of her notes could we find if she wanted to be buried traditional in a casket or cremated. My uncle had a vague memory of when he went into Vietnam, he told his mom, "Now, Mom, if anything happens to me over there, they're going to cremate me and you'll get my ashes." And she said, "Well, that's what I want to do too." But my grandmother was a devout Catholic, taught in Catholic school, was a lay teacher for Blessed Sacrament, and to me, it was complete opposite of what the Catholic belief is. A true Catholic would be a traditional burial. So all through the years, I have truly wondered if we did that right or not. And that's a hard thing to think about, especially with a loved grandmother like she was. And that was another reason why I started Before the After, was, we had these things come up, and I'm like, people should have a way to really write down what they want. And so Before the After was born. And what Before the After is it is a collection of planning papers in a folder, because we want you to keep everything in one place. The folders are different colors, so if you come to a planning session with your husband or a child, someone, your best friend, you and that person will get different colored folders. So that way you can communicate to your family, your loved ones, my folder's yellow, Dad's folder's orange. And we're gonna keep our things separate because we're so used to consolidating, and we're Midwest, we're conservative. This is one place where I want you to go nuts and use 2 different folders, 2 different forms. We're gonna go crazy. So the forms in that planning folder are listed on the inside of the brochure. We start with obituaries. It's writing out our life story. Some people say, "I don't want anything done." You don't have to. One thing to think about too with obituaries is it doesn't have to be in the newspaper. You can type up your own obituary, put some family photos on it, put it on a piece of paper that you really like. There's aisles of them at Michael's and Hobby Lobby, and copy that and hand that out at your service. It's as unique as you make it. With the internet and Facebook and email, all of your relatives can have your obituary. You don't have to pay to put it in the paper anymore. And as we hear about, maybe some security issues with obituaries, that's where Before the After gives you different ideas to think about. After obituaries, we help with your funeral or memorial planning. I had people come and say, "Well, I don't want to be in a church. What options do I have if I'm not religious?" Well, actually, they have it a little bit easier than some of our churches, because there's not rules. The sky's the limit. If it's a memorial, you pick your venue, you decide what you want to do, set aside some money in your will or start a savings account for that, and your memorial can happen the way you want. If it is church and you are a religious person and your faith life means a lot to you, it's having conversations now with your spiritual leader, finding out what is available in your church, finding out what music is allowed. Maybe there's particular Bible verses or lessons that are read during a funeral. Those are the types of things that you find out now. Prepare the paper, and when you're done, you give a copy to your faith leader. And that way, it's so much easier for them too. So when the family comes in, and your family might not even know you've done this, and they come in and they're like, "Mom has this all done. She and I sat down, we've got everything done." They're gonna be so relieved. After that, we have our lasting legacy. So that form helps you think of, besides my family, where else can I make an impact with the life I've lived? It might be making an endowment or a scholarship in your church. It might be doing something at the community garden. It might be taking something that you served community service or a passion of yours and leave a memorial to it. Lasting legacy also makes us think of the things we have around us. A lot of people will say, "Well, I've got my will, my house is getting sold, my cars are going to be sold." But what about everything else that we collect in a lifetime? What about things that were given to you by family members? Family being maybe your parents, your grandparents, those heirlooms. What's the plan for those? Better yet, what's the story of that item? Take the time, write down the story, and attach it to the item before you give it to the next person. When someone knows the story and value of it, they're going to treasure it even more. Then we have our medical directives. That's the first part of before the after call. That is kind of our service part. The next part's our medical part. So I help you with figuring out a power of attorney for healthcare, getting those directions and those directives down. So if something happened to you and you're not able to advocate for yourself, your family will know what you want. There are areas within a power of attorney for healthcare where your religious or your cultural beliefs are observed. And if you have religious or cultural beliefs that need to be observed for your spirit, it absolutely should go into that document. Beyond our power of attorney for healthcare, we also have in case of emergency plan, and then we have little cards that you can put in your wallet as well. It helps identify if you're a do not resuscitate under any circumstances. It helps identify if you have medical allergies or if you have an implanted device that people need to know about when an emergency happens. So we have a couple things under that medical plan. And then organ donation is part of that as well. If you have a power of attorney for healthcare, organ donation is going to be part of what's included in that document. But if you don't want to do a power of attorney for healthcare, and you don't need to, but you want to be an organ donor, you can still do an organ donation plan through the National Registry or our local registry office. Both hospitals have an organ donation liaison that can work with you and help you determine what you would like to be able to give for that gift of life. Then we have our, the next part is our legal part. So it is the preparing of a will, creating your designations list, getting an idea of who you want what to go to. We've kind of done that list of items that were given to us. That can absolutely go into your will as part of your designations. Beyond that will, we also have to think about what we have and where we want it to go. Do we still have younger children at home, or are our children doing great and we want to give specifically to grandkids? If we're talking about younger children, how do we want that disbursement to go? They don't have to get it all at once. We have a son who's still under the age of 18, so if something were to happen to us, we've decreed for his allocations to come out when he's 18, 25, and 30. So that way it can't turn into a big party at our house. It can't turn into a fast car, but maybe by the time he's 30, he's doing something responsible with what he's given. So, but know that you can control how those distributions happen with your will. Your will is also a place where you're going to identify if you have certain designations that you want done. So if you want to have a big splashy funeral with everything in it, or a 13-page obituary, that's where you start to designate that money out and set that aside. Your will is, for the most part, it is your map of what you have and where you want it to go. It also is a listing of accounts. So people know that I have a savings account at this bank, or I have credit cards with this company. It lists out your insurances and your designations, your investments, things like that. For any investment and insurance policy, you're going to have a beneficiary declaration on those, and you always want to make sure that that is the person that you want to receive that money, because your will never supersede that designation declaration. So there's a few things you want to look at and know about when you prepare your will. After that, we have our authorization for final disposition form, and that's a form from the state of Wisconsin. I have there for Minnesota and Iowa as well. And that's a form that is included in that power of attorney for healthcare, but again, if you decide not to do that form, you will still need the authorization for final disposition. You can go to an attorney to get it, but it is a state form, and it's something that you can complete on your own, and we help you complete that form if you would like that done. It goes into effect then in perpetuity once it's signed and notarized. Yep. Are you still doing workshops for this? Yes. Yep, in the center here, or sorry, on this side, we have our planning sessions that happen quarterly. And the quarterly planning sessions are with our community professionals. And those are, the next one is the first Monday of December. So with our up and down numbers, and with a lot of the churches where we have our planning sessions being closed, we've been going onto Zoom to do the planning sessions, but this is another program that we never ceased. In fact, we saw an increase in calls with people wanting to get a plan in place when COVID was getting so strong in our area. So, and besides the community planning sessions, I do one-to-one planning sessions as well. So if someone would like help, I do ask that they get the folder first and start their homework. And once they get into it and start to understand what some of their questions would be and what, starting to fill out those forms, then they can give me a call and we'll sit down and go through it together and just make sure that it's filled out concisely, and not the whole packet maybe doesn't apply for someone. If you already have your will, if you've already started some of those steps, just pick and choose what does pertain to you. And that's why I always say to people, even with the forms, if this doesn't make sense or something doesn't, just cross it out and write in what does. Let's see, after the authorization, then we have the power of attorney for finances, another state of Wisconsin form, and we help people complete that form. And what a state of Wisconsin power of attorney for finances form does is it grants someone permission to help with your finances. It doesn't take you out of that financial role, it allows someone else to help you. I am currently my dad's power of attorney for finance, his agent. He had a stroke in March, and he has not been able to do any type of banking. And even with a power of attorney for finances form, there are still lots of loops you have to jump through. Banks are probably one of the strongest protected areas for someone's identity and assets. So there's a lot of affidavits and notary public. So find a good notary and find someone who's a good notary, because you will need them. But that is a form that we help with someone with. There's a listing within that form of different duties, and you would check or put your initials there, and that helps and grants someone permission to help you with those. So that's a form we do. One of the last forms, second to last form in our folder, is the Everything in One Place form. And that's taking all of your accounts. Think of the bills that you pay either online or through a checkbook, and all of those forms have a statement that you receive. We pull those December statements for doing our taxes. The November statements, I like for people to put right into their planning folder. So that way if something were to happen, the family can quickly grab that folder and those forms and say, okay, we need to suspend this account. She doesn't need cable TV if she hurt her shoulder, she's in the nursing home. Let's shut this stuff down and save some money while she's in rehab. So that's a listing of those accounts. It goes through and lists papers you should have on place. And another part of that form is, as you start to list out those accounts that you pay on a monthly budget, those accounts that are coming into the home, it quickly shows how many certificates of death you would need at some time, because each one of those companies would receive the notice that you had passed, and to shut down that account or that service, they would need a COD at that time. So kind of serves two purposes. And then the last form in the folder is just a contact sheet. On one side, it's please let these people know if I'm ever in the hospital. And on the other side, it's please let these people know if I've passed away. I make a joke that the people in our phones aren't necessarily the people who receive Christmas cards, and if our phones are face recognition, thumbprint, fingerprint, 4-digit code, how many people are going to get into your phone without taking a trip to the local cellular store? So your phone is really, those are the people that you stay the most in contact with, and they should be listed on this sheet. The list of people that get the Christmas cards, maybe those are the people that we let know of your passing. I always tell people, don't presume that your kids know, your family know what you want or who should be there, because we don't. My mom and I worked on her planning folder, and I thought I knew my mom pretty well. I never knew she was an OB nurse in the very beginning of her nursing career. Yeah, I had no idea. So I would have left out a huge part of her in her obituary. So don't presume that your kids know everything. We really don't. You have to remember the first 18 years, we didn't listen or care. So So that's basically what's in the before the after planning session. As we said, there are quarterly sessions. We do one-to-one, and we go out to different community groups. I've been to family reunions, and at a family reunion, they all got together and did a planning folder. I've been at many churches doing planning sessions. Community groups, I've been everywhere. So if it appeals to you, if you and your family want to get together, do something like that, before the after would be the one that you can call and ask about. Then our last program that I want to share with you today is our OASIS program. This is our newest outreach program. And this program, we've added an employee to Causeway. We have a CNA for this program as well. And OASIS is a respite program for individuals in the beginning to moderate stages of an Alzheimer's, dementia, or other brain-related impairment diagnosis. This is a respite program that is officially 1 year old as of October 15th. This is a respite program that started in the pandemic, and we have kept it going throughout. We did temperature checks car side, we've done mask checks, and all of the screening and sanitizing and hand sanitizer, we've done it all to keep our individuals safe. And OASIS is held on Thursdays from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it is, I always say, we say it's for the participants coming, that they need socialization, that they need that connection and to be with people who are just like them, but it's really for the caregiver. If we told the caregiver it was for them, they'd never show up, because caregivers say, I can do it all, I know my person best, no one knows them like I do. That's why we say it's for the other person. Secret is it might be for both, but we tried advertising it to caregivers and it wasn't well received. When we changed it for the participant, we had people coming. So we learned on that one. So on that Thursday together, we break our day and a recording sheet that I do into 3 different sections: being active, being creative, and brain activities. So being active, we have bowling, we have beanbag toss, we have Nerf gun targets, we have ball games that we play, we have remote control cars, we have a drone that we can fly. We have all kinds of things that we just take a walk outside. It's held at First Free Church, and there's a walking path around the church. So we go outside and walk, and that's one of the most exciting things that our people love to do. They're like, yes, we're going for a walk. Being creative, we have lots of adaptive materials that are specifically designed for older individuals or someone with dementia. As the program coordinator, I try to do 1 or 2 crafts per month. As we get closer to a holiday, we tend to gear our education and our activities towards that holiday. For the brain activities, we have topic dice, we have conversation cards. We are getting, for the topic dice, that's something that we try to do every time we're together, and it is a dry erase dice that we write topics on. So it's a TV show, it's a girl's name, a body part, a song, all these different topics, and we throw the dice, we have to catch it, and whatever is on the top, that's a topic you say. So it's, what's my favorite flower? And you'll see our people, some say it really fast, others really think about it. And that's one thing that we learned in our dementia training as a volunteer and then as a coordinator, went through dementia training, and it's like, just give them time. And that's one thing that we've had to learn as volunteers, is to slow down and give that person time, because it's, that brain is up there processing. And one of the trainers said, watch their eyes. If they're blinking, they're thinking. So when you see them and they're like, oh, and then all of a sudden they'll say New York City, or they'll say Ben. You know, they give that answer, and you just have to wait for it. And so that's part of that neat side of OASIS, is seeing those 3 different components come out in someone during the day. And then with OASIS, in that form that I use, I chart, as we're together, what someone participated in, and I'm taking pictures the whole time. So when the caregiver comes and gets their loved one, they leave for the day, and I spend the rest of the day charting. And then on Fridays, I email or text them a picture of that chart, and then all the pictures I took of their loved one the day before. And I kind of, compare it to myself having a 14-year-old and saying to Luke, well, what'd you do in school today? Nothing. What'd you eat? I don't remember. What'd you talk about? Nothing much. I think it would be about the same with someone who's, into a dementia or Alzheimer's, and that recall is impacted. The caregiver can look at this sheet and look at the pictures and go, oh, they were really into driving the cars, or they really, had a good time. But it helps create that connection between them. And then it also gives the caregiver an idea when they're home, oh, I could try this with my person. So beyond our programming, at OASIS during that 4 hours, we do lunch from usually 12 to 1, and I home cook the meal. It has to travel in a crock pot, so, but we have a home cooked warm meal. And then for birthdays, we always make a homemade treat. It's usually pretty healthy, zucchini something, apple something. We do try to keep everything within, and we do screen on dietary restrictions. So we are conscious of caloric or gluten, or even if there's a diabetic, something like that. But that's OASIS, and the purpose for OASIS, beyond that connectivity, is having to be affordable. For our caregivers, we want to make sure that it's something that they can afford. So each time someone comes to OASIS, it costs $10 flat. It's not per hour, that's $10 per attendance. We do not expect them to pay each time they come. We do an invoice at the end of the month, and if someone's not able to afford the invoice at the end of the month, they don't need to send money. It's a suggested donation, and then we do have a scholarship option available as well through our Aging and Disability Resource Center of La Crosse County, to where they could attend even if there was a financial hardship. So that's number one. You can have the best program, but if people can't afford it, what's the purpose? So OASIS is there for people. We're hoping to expand to Wednesdays as well this coming year. We need volunteers to expand into that second day offering. Right now we're on Thursdays. We'd love to add Wednesdays, so a caregiver would have 2 days to get things done, so to have that back-to-back time. To volunteer, it's pretty simple, and you do receive training. We have a community dementia specialist in La Crosse County, and she does the trainings for our volunteers, so you have an understanding of the communication techniques to use, and also understanding what it is like to have a dementia. With Dementia Live is the training that's held, and it is the putting on of headsets that are sending 1,000 different noises and sounds through your ears, and someone standing next to you giving you a direction of something to do. And you're trying to listen to them, but you've got all this squelch going on in your head, and then you're given an activity to do with your hands. And that's what it's like to have dementia. And you really don't get it until you're immersed in it. And then that slowing down, let them process, watch their eyes. If they're blinking, they're listening, they're thinking. And that's where it all comes through. So if you have availability as a volunteer, we'd love to have you. Our volunteers truly drive the program. And so those are the 3 topics of Causeway that I wanted to talk about today. Are there any questions for those that are here? Yeah, we have a great pool. And we also are online too, so there's Get Connected, and there's a couple volunteer search engines online that help us get students, and our universities are wonderful too. A lot of student degrees have at least 15, some up to 30 hours of volunteer work that they need to do. And right now I have 3 awesome students from UWL in the OASIS program helping us. And they're bringing in what they're learning, and they're actually going to teach us this coming Thursday. They've put together a chair yoga program for us that we can then continue on with OASIS. So that's what I always, it's amazing you know, the difference that one person can make in a program, and then take that towards how many times they get together with that person and how much difference they make in that person's life. So, yeah. We have just registered on Aunt Bertha. Yeah, I was working on that on Friday, so that's a great suggestion. Yep. Yes. So we're on that, and then we do have our websites. I should mention those. Causeway's website is causewaycaregivers.org. So CAUSEWAY caregivers.org. And then the phone number is 608-775-9999. And OASIS Respite has its own website. We don't want it to get all jumbled in. So that's OASIS, OASIS, respite.org. And that phone number is 608-780-0471. And then for before the after, if you're interested in ever attending a planning session or one-to-one, you can just call that Causeway phone number, 608-775-9999, for any help with before the after.